Good evening, everyone. Once again, we are happy to have you join us today for meetup. It's always good. It's always very educative and interesting to get into the various aspects of the design thinking every month. And personally, I learned something very new every month that we need. So it's good to have you back here again. And today, as we are all aware, we'll be delving into understanding the concepts of meaning when we are doing design thinking. When we talk about meaning, what comes to mind? So today we have the honor of having Dr. Abby and then Papa Yu who will be taking us through the discussions today. So without much ado, I would hand over to them and then they introduce themselves and then they take us through. Thank you. Papa Yu, Dr. Abby, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Matthew, and good evening, everyone. So my name is Abna Engman, or Abby, or Dr. Abby, whichever one suits the occasion, whichever one you prefer, it's fine. And I work as a facilitator at Design Thinking Ghana, and I also work as the Dean of Students at Academic City University. Eugene, would you like to introduce yourself before I start?
All right. Hello, everyone. Good evening. It's a pleasure to have you here. My name is Eugene Elueke. I'm a senior growth catalyst with Growth Africa and also a facilitator.
Thank you, Eugene. So I will start us off and Eugene will come and take over. I will just take us through what we are doing here today and then a little exercise. So Matthew, you can go to the next slide. Okay, thank you. So basically, all that this slide is trying to tell us is that today we are going to see what it means to have meanings in design thinking. So what's the meaning of meanings in design thinking? So we are focusing on three main things to highlight the human element and the importance of meanings in the design process. What's the human element and what do these meanings mean in our design thinking process? We are going to explore how the users or the personas we are designing for or solving the problem for, how do they attach these meanings to the problems and the solutions that they expect? And as designers, as innovators, how can we uncover these meanings and also incorporate these meanings into our solutions, into our design process? Eugene will come a little later to explain what meanings mean. I've been saying meanings. I'm sure you're wondering what it means, but we'll explain it a little later. So I want us to do a little exercise before we delve into the actual presentation today. So I'll give you a second to look at the slide to absorb the information that is there. And in the chat, please type which product is your preferred product, which product you buy from the market. If you just had this information, which of the products would you have? But kindly type it in the chat for us. Give you a few seconds to do that. Just say product A or product B. Which one is your preference? Okay, the answers have started coming in. Product B, product A, okay. Looks like the A's are winning. Okay. Derry, I'll put you on the spot. Why did you choose A? Any reason why you choose A?
So I think it has, in terms of capacity, the storage capacity and other functionalities, it seemed a little more advanced than the other option. And the price, I'm just guessing that a dollar sign means $1 sign compared to $3 sign means it is also cheaper. So it makes a lot of sense in terms of functionality and economic wise to choose product A. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Derry. Eugene, I know you are facilitating, but you are the only one who chose product B. Any reason why you chose product B?
Biases.
Sorry?
Biases. I'm always biased for the underdogs, so I chose that one.
Okay. All right. Because of time, I will not continue. Matthew, please give me the next slide. We'll move on. Okay. So these are two other products. Once again, please type in the chat which one you would have chosen. No, yeah, it's fine. Please type in the chat which one you would have chosen if you're just presented with pictures. Okay, Brian says the iPod. Okay. Okay. Just pictures, MP3, iPod. Is it the iPod or the MP3? So when Derry was answering, he said he was looking at the price, he was looking at the other features. That's what made him choose what he chose earlier. The storage had a higher storage. Brian, let me put you on the spot. Why the MP3 player?
Hi, Dr. Abby, and that's just going by pictures. Sorry, I just joined, so in case I'm missing any context.
No, it's fine. You didn't miss much. I'm just asking what
Okay.
you have chosen between these
I
two.
was okay. So if I had context, I would choose the iPod because it has more songs. But if I was just going by the pictures, the MP3 player looks like it has a display. It also looks larger, and so it just virtually looks like more value for money. Just virtually.
Okay, great. I like the fact that you said because the iPod has more music that you can play. So to you, the quantity of music is important. But then when it comes to the MP3, it looks like more value for money, right?
Mm-hmm.
Great. So that's the meanings that you're attaching to it. So we are gradually going into the meanings part. So the first slide I showed was what we see on the right, the details, and then the left side is just what we spoke about. So you realize that a lot of you chose product A because of the features that you saw. But then when you saw the design, the look and feel, most of you chose product B. And that's what we are going to delve into. What are the things that people think about when they are thinking about their problems and when they are thinking about what kind of solution do I want? What makes you decide on the type of solution that you want? So Derry explained why. Brian also explained why. And they gave some reasons why they chose what they chose, depending on what they saw, depending on what they could see. Reading the room, I think looking at the participants, everybody knows what the design thinking process is about, the double diamond, unless there's somebody who is not familiar with what a double diamond is. But if we all are, to save time, what we are going to do today is to see how the concept of meanings should run through the design thinking process. So as we are using the double diamond to come up with innovations, to come up with solutions, where do we need to think about meanings, or where does the word meanings pop up to help us come up with the solutions that are desired by our customers? So at this stage, I'll hand over to Eugene to continue with the session.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Abby. I hope everyone can hear me. So, Mark, kindly go to the next. Um, yeah. All right. So we have this very interesting statement, and at this point, we would like to know your point of view or your view about this, whether it is true or and if it is true, why do you say it is true? If it is not, why do you say it's not true? And the statement is very simple. Problems and solutions revolve around people's life journey, experiences, and the meaning they attach to it. You could type or you could just unmute and contribute to whether this statement is true and why you say it is true or not. Anybody would like to go? Anybody?
Yes, I can go first. I'm still thinking about the
Yes.
statement, but
Yes.
I can say for a fact that this statement is true. But as to why, that's what I'm still thinking about. Because obviously, if you look at the innovations that we have, if you look at the problems that are around us, you realize that they all stem out from the experiences, our daily experiences, and our journey in life. So, of course, someone's problem might not be a problem to me because of the meanings the person attached to it and the meanings I also attach to that. So, of course, our problems or solutions that are around us are based on the meanings that we attach to them. Yeah, that's what I think is the reason why.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Matthew. Thank you. Yes, yes,
Um,
Ryan?
Yes. So I think this would supporting Matthew's point. I was recently rewatching a series called Breaking Bad, and it's a pretty good series if anyone hasn't seen it, it's on Netflix. And there was a scene where one of the main characters is a drug addict, and so they wanted to take him to rehab. But apparently, if you do not consider yourself to be a drug addict or an alcoholic, you can't be taken there. So the whole point is, even if other people think what you're going through is a problem, once you don't think is a problem, it doesn't need a solution. So I feel like that's like the core of this statement. Like problems aren't problems unless they are problems for the people experiencing them. It doesn't matter what you think if you are outside that situation. So and so equally, solutions, I feel like it has the same thread.
Sure. All right. Thank you. Yeah. So, I mean, the two explanations that we have kind of lay it bare the fact that for every problem you may find yourself working on, there are three things you cannot ignore. The first one is the human element. The second one is the problem revolves around those people, their lives. In other words, it has a direct impact on their life. As to whether it is a positive impact, a neutral impact, or a negative impact, it comes down to how the people themselves, like Ryan said, see it and what it means to them. Even when you progress to a solution, that solution must be used by the human element in there. And so once again, those humans will decide whether this is a solution they want to carry along or it's a solution they would not want to have anything to do with it. Okay. And most importantly are the elements of journey and experiences. Experiences are part and parcel of the human life. And these experiences are directly influenced by what they perceive around them, what is directly available to them at any point in time, and what kind of activities they are involved in, and the interactions they are also having. Okay. And these are the things that really make solving for the human being or trying to help the human being a very complex enterprise. All right. The key point we want to just put across here is as a designer, as a business manager, whatever you may find yourself, you always need to keep in mind that whatever problem or solution you are trying to work out, it revolves around people's life, their journeys, experiences, and most importantly, the meaning they attach to it. Yes, Matthew, please move on to the next slide.
Papa, you need to speak up and the audio is not very clear.
Oh, okay. All right. Let me draw it. Okay. So Matthew, kindly speak up. Yeah. So the next things I want to talk about is why people attach meanings to it. And these are just a sample of some of the things we've listed. If you feel there's something that we've left out, kindly unmute and contribute. People attach meaning to problems because it helps them to make sense of what exactly they are going through. Okay. You find somebody having a very difficult time and you ask them and they tell you, oh, I understand what is happening, or I understand why, or I want to really understand why this is happening to me at this point in time. Once they're able to find a meaning of what is going on, it helps them to make sense of that experience. The next reason why people attach meanings to it is a coping mechanism. Sometimes things happen, you may be running a business and one day you wake up and the business has suffered a major market disruption and you say, look, it is not the end of the world. At that point, you created a meaning of this is not the end of the world. get moving on, you can do the next thing, or you can take the next step. And it is a coping mechanism for humans whenever we try to attach meaning to our experiences. And it is also a way of feeling in charge. People go through experience and say, well, I know why it happened, or I've seen this before. I've gone through this part before. And it is a way of reassuring themselves that they are in charge, or they can be in charge, or they can do something about it. Then the other reason is for identity and purpose. People often come to that point where they want to ask themselves, I want to know who I am and where I'm going. Why is all of this happening? And it is all part of that human nature to try and attach a meaning to um, the event that are unfolding in his life or their life. Then the next reason is community and social influences. Um, People encounter problems and they say, well, in our part of for example, you take an entrepreneur, business is really going through a rough patch. You tell, well, in Ghana here, it's very difficult to do business. This is what we experience in our part of Imagine if I was um, somewhere else or whatever it is. Um, During the COVID-19, we saw how we all approach the problem from very different perspectives. And very often we said, this is the way we do it here, or this is not the way we do it here, so on and so forth. And these are all part of the reasons that people attach meanings to the problem that they face. And the last one is psychological resilience. Whenever people go through problem or go through a situation, okay, they want to say it as well. It's one of those things that will happen, and we can bounce back. Or they ask themselves, is this something that we can bounce back from adversity? Okay. And in likewise manner, people also attach meanings to solutions. So Mark, let's go on to the next one then. I can quickly um if anybody wants to make a contribution here, please feel free to speak up. I see. Okay. Please, is my audio clear now? Is my audio clear now?
Fine for me. I can hear you well.
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right. Yeah, so Matthew, kindly go on to the next slide after. Matthew there.
Yeah, I'm here. I think I lost the slide. I don't know. Can you still see the slides?
No, yeah, but it's not rolling. So the next
Okay.
slide, yes, yes, good. Yes, let's go. No, no, go back to the, yes. Now, so earlier on, I talked about problems, why people attach meanings to problems. It is a way of making sense of what is going on. It's a coping mechanism and so on and so forth. Now let us look at why people attach meaning to solutions. So please go on to the next slide. Yes, when you hear people, no, yeah, when you hear people make statements like, I am glad I chose this solution, they are giving a validation of the choices they've made. Okay, there is a solution available to them when they have paid for it, they've gone in for it, and you hear a comment like, I am glad I chose this. They want to feel, yes, they want to feel right in their choices, and they want to let you know that this is the best choice that they've made. It's a validation. So they attach that meaning of validation to the choice that they made. Sometimes you hear people say, I feel relieved and at peace. And it is a way of getting emotional satisfaction from the solution that you have received, right? Then identity and self-image. I'm proud of myself for finding a solution to it. People, you talk to an entrepreneur, you talk to anybody, and they've been able to hack a way around the problem and come up with a solution. Then they begin to say, well, I'm a survivor. I am a doer. I'm a maker. I can get it done. I'm the mover and the shaker. You hear all those kind of statements. Those are the meanings people begin to attach to it, and it helps them to build identity and self-image. Same way, it helps a sense of control and predictability. The part that I love most is when it has to do with learning and growth. And this is a statement that you often hear. Well, it was a very difficult moment, but I think I have learned something from it. I've become stronger and better. Why do they say that? That is the meaning they want to attach to the outcome of how they were able to solve the problem, and the fact that they now become better. So you don't find yourself belittling them, but you rather find yourself appreciating where they find themselves, all right? Then the last one is social validation. Others will understand and support my decision. When you find somebody doing something in a particular way and they stand by it and they tell you that, well, society will understand me, it's just a way of making, it's just a way of emphasizing that yes, what I've done is right, and society will accept me for that. Okay. So from the user perspective, these are some of the reasons that what do you call it? These are some of the meanings they will attach to a problem or to a solution. What about you, the designer? You, the one who is trying to solve the problem. Matthew, kindly move on to the next one. Okay, so that slide is hidden, but whenever you encounter your user expressing these meanings, you as the designer, you stand back and you say, when my user say he's happy about the choice he has made, what does it mean? For you, one possible meaning is a validation of the desirability of the solution you profit. So I'll give an example. Let's say Brian is looking for uh, um, what do you call it? A mouse that can actually also draw on the screen. He found it become a big problem for him because of the work he does and all of that. And I'm able to come up with something to help him do it. He tries it, he uses it, and he thinks it's good, and he's happy to pay for it. And he shows it off to his friends and say, look, I'm really happy I paid for this. This is really helpful for me. For me, the designer, when I hear Brian say something like that, it's a validation of the desirability of my solution that I've brought in there. When I hear Brian say something like, I feel at peace finally, it is it is an indication to me that Brian is experiencing satisfaction from the work I have done. Okay. So at any point in time, there are two things we want to keep in mind. Your user is expressing a meaning, a statement of either the problem he's encountering or the solution. And you, the designer, it is now your job to be able to listen, observe, and ask yourself, what does this mean for me as an innovator? And how does it translate into a potential solution? We believe that for every one of us as designers or design thinkers, one of our superpowers is the ability to uncover meaning and generate insight to innovate a solution. Okay, being able to observe, being able to listen, being able to pick up the details of what your users say and asking yourself, what does this mean? And being able to get the meaning out of it is one of the big skills that designers must have, or it's one of our superpowers. Yes, please, let's move on. So I'm going to give you some examples to just drive home that point. Yes, Mark. Okay, so there's the classic story that we all know about the Swiffer. All right. Before the Swiffer was born, we had the messy mop, where mothers have to actually dip their hands into the water and wash the mop with all the discomfort that came with it, ending up with muddy water and so on and so forth. It was a messy mop. But when the consulting team was contracted by P&G to actually find a solution to it, how they arrived at this wafer is all rooted in how they were able to decode the meaning and the attachment these mothers or these households attach to the problem of mopping the floor. Okay. From the perspective of these mothers at that time, mopping the floor was a messy experience, was a difficult experience, costly experience. It cost me too much money. I spent too much time trying to mop. And this is not making me feel like a responsible mother because I'm beginning to skip the mopping time. And what does that mean? It means for these mothers, mopping was a sign of being a responsible mother. It was a badge of honor for them. Based on these meanings that the consulting group were able to draw out based on the observation, they were able to innovate and came up with the Swiffer. And today the Swiffer has completely transformed the mopping experience. Then we look at, no, just go ahead. If you see I'm talking to her, just move on. Then we look at the next example, which is public KVIP to the Unilu. The Unilu was a project of Green Team from IDEO. They had to come up with a solution to people accessing public toilet facility. If you look at the first picture, you actually go to the KVIP, you line up, everybody knows what you are going to do. But being able to observe, interact, conduct interviews, the clean team were able to really understand what is that biggest meaning when it comes to responding to nature's call. It is about the privacy. And therefore, they were able to come up with a Unilu as a solution to that problem. And what was the testimony from the user? This toilet has brought honor and dignity to our family. Okay, when you hear your users begin to give you such meanings attached to the solutions they are using, then you know very well that the whole issue is not about just providing a technical solution that they can use, but it is something higher. And that something higher, you can actually get it when you are able to find out the meaning your users attach to both the problem and the solution. Let's have the last example, and then we could move on. The last example is from an isolated incubator to an embraced baby woman. This is a story that all of us here have heard before, so on and so forth. And when you take that desperate mother looking at her, she herself being separated from her baby in the incubator, she probably had to go home and all of that. The meaning that she has to carry on her neck and the burden that she has to carry are so much. I can't be separated from my baby. My village people will not accept this. This is not done. This is a taboo, and so on and so forth. What meaning at that point was she attaching to that whole solution which was being offered to her? These people have finished me. Life cannot continue. Either my baby or I'm not living here, you know? And when as designers, when we're able to pay attention and get these nuances, then it really feeds into the innovation that we bring up. And that is exactly what the experience we have with the Embrace Baby Woman, right? So these are a few examples just to drive home the point about the importance of really paying attention to your users and asking yourself, what she said, what does it mean, and how does it influence the solution that I need to bring up? Okay, I'll pause here for one or two contributions from the audience, and then we could go on to the next one. Any contributions or suggestions? Anybody? Okay, all right. So then, Matthew, you can move on to the next slide. So I have a question for all of us here. Are humans always rational? Why or why not? Anybody, any two or three people like to give a contribution and give us why or why not? Are humans always rational? Yes, Matthew?
Okay, this question is I would say it's peculiar to everybody because rationality depends on what you mean by rationality. Something that's rational to you may not be rational to somebody else.
Yeah, exactly. So, yes,
So
any other person? Yes, Brian?
yeah, I mean, I think as much as there are no absolutes in the world, I think for this question, absolutely humans are not always rational, and the simple reason for that is because humans are have emotions, and emotions always, to an extent, make you make biased decisions. Um, Everybody has something that they spend money they shouldn't spend that much on, but it's just something they like to do, or has a person they'll be biased for, like. Unless
Yeah,
you're like that villain in 007 who doesn't have feelings or that part of his nerve system. I think we are all biased
yeah,
some
yeah.
way, somehow.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, Kofi?
Yeah, what do you think? I think objectively, it doesn't appear that humans are always rational. Just for the fact that we see so many examples of that in very different and in very different spheres of life. Particularly, in design thinking, we talk a lot about how functionality alone is not enough for a lot of use cases. So if it's just about the job to be done, then humans should rationally say this does the job better than this. But because we are not always rational, we attach a lot of other layers to what fundamentally rationality means. So I think based off of that, and I read something somewhere recently where they cataloged a number of, use cases or a number of experiences where humans are not rational. And I think two examples that comes to mind is wine. It's been established that wine poured out of heavier glasses. People attach more value to that than wine poured out of lighter glasses. So premium wine sellers would make their glasses thicker than making it lighter, just to infuse into the psychology of the brand that we're a premium brand. So, many, many, many other brands also do some things that just outrightly beats rationality. So I would say, I don't think humans are always rational.
Okay, good. So my follow-up question will be, what does it mean for us as designers who are always who always find themselves solving one problem or the other or improving a solution or the other? What does it mean for us if the people we are trying to help are not rational? What does it mean for us? I think Brian was stuck since he's working on the solution that actually.
Yeah. I
What
mean,
does it mean for you? Yes.
yeah. I think for me, and also learning from more successful businesses, it means that you can't just design products that function well. Functionality is the first and the most important thing you can do, but you have to add extra layers of what makes people connect to that product, whether it's appealing to their psychology or desire, or whether it's, appealing to why they go for you doing something similar to your competitors, and what are those reasons that convinces the person to do so. So I know in Foundations of Design Entrepreneurship at Chelsea, there's this thing called the three-legged stool, where you have the function, but you also have desirability and viability. And I think that aspect of desirability, which is why Papa, you're using the laptop you're using, or Matthew attends the master's program he attends out of other programs, is something you have to make sure your product does. So that when people see it and see a competitor, there's a reason they choose you, although the functions might be similar.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, Edna says that to some extent, I also think humans are rational because they always want to maximize their satisfaction with their limited resources. Yeah, this is a very loaded statement.
So I would say to that point, if I might ask a question to Edna, um,
Yeah,
like fancy restaurants with the five-course meals and all those things, I bet like those meals deliver the least. You never get full because almost everything feels like a tasting menu, but then it's probably 10 times more expensive than if you were just to buy a burger and fries. Um, and part
yeah,
of and part of that reason is also because, like Kofi was saying, perception, the less it looks, the more value, but you are hungrier when you're not satisfied when you eat it. So might that contradict the point of humans wanting to maximize with the finite resources they have? Because in that case, people spend more money for less. The same way, if instead of buying
yeah,
a Toyota Land Cruiser, which will give you this amount of seats, this amount of reliability and everything, you buy a Ferrari, which is way more expensive, might break down more, be more expensive to fix, you know, and people do that, right?
yeah,
How does
yeah,
that apply to that logic?
exactly. So the conclusion we can have is at some point humans will exhibit rationality, and at several points humans will exhibit irrationality. It all comes down to the situation they are facing and what it means to them. Okay, you will find a gentleman who does not have all the means. It is that one moment of an evening out, and that evening means so much to him. He will break the bank and make sure that evening is worth every moment of it. It doesn't make sense, but it carries a whole world of meaning for him at that point. That same gentleman, you pick him in a different situation, you expect him to break the bank, he will start giving you all the reasons why he should not break the bank to expend on something else. You tell him, no, 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 this thing I don't need it. No, this thing I can do without it. But the same person spent so much amount of money just 2 nights ago. So at the point of whether showing rationality or irrationality, it comes down to the meaning we attach to the particular event we are facing, whether it is a problem or it is a solution. Matt, we kindly move on to the next slide. And a few reasons why rationality fails, and we basically explained or talked about them here. The first one is motivation and needs. Okay, human. When we look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, human behavior is driven by a range of needs from basic ones to complex self-actualization goals. Understanding these needs help explain why people will take certain actions and goals, even if it doesn't make sense. Then the cognitive process, the way people process information, make decisions, and solve problems from their point of view, okay? These mental processes do not always make rational sense, all right? Then the emotion part. Emotions influence how people react to situations, interact with others, and make decisions. Then the cultural influences also have their role. Then the last one is social interaction. Okay. Now, these and many more reasons explain why rationality will not always work or will not always win. And like I said a few seconds ago, it all comes down to the meanings people attach to that particular moment. If that particular moment is what means so much to me, means so much for my wealth, my existence, I will do everything to make sure I make that moment count. If it doesn't mean much, I will just do the ordinary thing that everyone expects of me. And this is the same mindset as designers that we should always have at the back of our mind when we are interacting with our users and we are trying to solve a problem or come up with solutions for them. Yes, Matthew, please go on to the next one. Sophie, please, your hand is up. Is it a new one or is it the old one?
I think Derry also has a comment in the chat, which is interesting.
Okay. Uh, they behave when they are not using their head, but other senses that drive their life decision. Uh, when we throw in instincts, emotions, and these hard to logically explain aspects of humans, we cannot always say humans are rational. That I is very objective and likely predictable. It means designers have succeeded when they're able to relate really well with their users to understand how they behave when they are not using their head, but other senses that drive their life decisions. Thank you so much, Jerry. Jerry, this is the next topic we'll have to do in our next monthly meetup. So here is an example, a good one, Jerry. So here is a very basic example. Um, a notebook can represent an item of productivity, an item of creativity, personal identity, or authority. So imagine I give you the notebook with the president's picture embossed on it. It will not just be an item of productivity that you use. You carry it with a certain sense of aura and a certain sense of pride because now it represents or it means something else to you completely. All right. And what that means is a simple problem could have deeper significant meanings for users or customers. And the implication for you, for us designers, is solutions must address both functional and emotional aspects. And I think that this point has been made already so far. All right, please let's go on to the next one. Dr. Abi, please feel free to come in if, yeah. So this is basically to summarize the first part of the conversation we've had. So we have some key takeaway points. All right. And we've established that humans naturally attribute meaning to the problems and solutions they encounter. So the key questions as designers that we always need to ask ourselves is, how do these meanings shape user choices? How do these meanings manifest or become apparent? Or what implication do they hold for innovators and the design thinking process? Okay, something for us to reflect on. The design thinking process, sometimes, and any of you here can relate. Sometimes the process of executing the design thinking process or trying to work out a solution, we kind of rush through the process of collecting the data, coming back to analyze it, without really pausing to think about the meanings that the problem we are solving hold for the affected user. Okay, sometimes, I didn't say what I said, sometimes. And if we have at the back of our mind that people attach meanings to their problems or solutions, the kind of questions we will design in our research protocol will be slightly different. Imagine I'm going to do a bit of work on um, high blood pressure as a health challenge, and I pause to really think about what high blood pressure means to this group of people. Does high blood pressure mean they have not taken good care of themselves, or they have been working so hard, they've been so successful, they've been able to acquire wealth for their children and their children's children, and therefore, even though they see right in front of them that, wow, my BP is always on the danger threshold. However, it is for a good cause. I have to keep working to even create more wealth. If I pause to really consider some of these things, our argument is it will reflect in the kind of questions we frame and reframe going into the field. And I'll pause here. If anybody has a contribution or has a challenge on these reflections, it would be nice to hear from you before we move on to the next one. Any contribution or challenge on this reflection? Okay, the room is quiet. Okay, so, all right, so let's move on. I'm sure by the time we end, yeah. So, the implication for designers is we must always be aware about the user attributed meaning during the design process. As we walk through from the challenge all the way to understand, empathize, define, whatever it is, whatever stage we are, always as design, we should have at the back of our mind that these guys we are solving for, these things here mean something to them. And it is important we keep asking them, what does it mean to you? Okay, that will help us really get superior in our innovation process or the kind of solutions that we bring up. Yes. Martin, please move on to the next one. And I'm going to walk very fast through the next few slides because they are basically around the same point that I want to emphasize. How do users reflect the meaning they attach to problems? And this is a very important question, especially if you are new in the design phase. You want to understand how users reflect these meanings. And first one is verbal communication. Users sometimes when you are interviewing them or you are observing them, the kind of language they use, the words and the stories you hear them say, if you really listen carefully, it will reveal the underlying meaning and the values that are important to them concerning the problem or solution. Okay. One time Doc shared a story about that who was trying a new app and he puts off his data uh, when he's not using anything. And when he needs information, he puts on the data. Meanwhile, the app requires that the data must always be on. Now, this is a classic situation where you want to ask the person, what does it mean to you to have your data on all the time? And you begin to hear stories of what it means to them, whether it is about losing money or it's about receiving messages they don't want to receive or so on and so forth. Okay. Another way, another verbal communication way people show meanings is expression of frustration or satisfaction. And I think the picture here tells a lot. Okay, when people verbalize their frustration or they verbalize their satisfaction about particular things, it is an indication for you, the designer, to take note that this thing they are complaining about means a lot to them and carries weight or meaning about the whole experience. And it's a point for you to drill or dig deeper to understand what is going on. Please move on to the next one. If Matt, if you see I spend more than 30 seconds on the slide, you can just move on. I'll just walk them. The next one is non-verbal communication. And this one comes down to body language and tone of voice. You are interviewing a mother, and the mother, every time she talks about her son, she is almost moved to tears. That is a whole notebook for you to start digging and say, why do you cry whenever you talk about your son? What does your son's life mean to you, or what exactly is going on here? All right. Tone of voice is also a way that users express or indicate meaning about the problem or solution for designer. Yes, please let's go on. Yeah. People's behavior and actions. And here we are looking at usage patterns. So we've been complaining about e-levy, we've been complaining about high mobile charges, and yet the data keeps showing that people are still using the mobile platform to do more and more transactions. Transactions are doubling, tripling. What does that mean? What meanings are users communicating to policymakers about the use of mobile money or the mobile platform? So our usage patterns communicate a lot. And the way we also go about solving a problem communicates a lot. Let's take the mobile platform again. If you want to send money, there's so much charges, but people say, hey, just send it. I'm happy to pay the charges. I'll rather do that than drive all the way. That communicates a whole lot of meanings about what is important for the user and what is not really important. Okay, so as a designer, these are points that you can always look out for when you want to begin to pick up the meaning that users attach to a problem or solution. Yes, please, let's go on. Then the next one, people's choices and preference. No, go back to the first one. People's choices and preference. What would you do if you went to a country that you did not know anyone and you had an option to use your Visa card or pay card? Which one would you choose? Would you choose to pay card or you choose to pay Visa? That choice, that choice that you made tells a lot about what is important for you or the meaning you attach to the whole concept of card. Okay, whether you make a choice to use card or card, all right? The way users select, the factors that people consider when they are choosing among options provide insights into the meaning they attach to the different solutions. The trade-off people are willing to make, the compromises people are willing to make. Oh, you don't have the iPod, don't worry, just give me the Samsung MP3 player. It's fine. I think I'm happy to use. Why would they make that kind of trade-off? Why would they make that choice? Giving two options, okay? This all reveal or help us to really identify the meaning people attach to a solution, okay? Yes, please, let's go on. Then emotional responses, either by expressions of joy or anger or level of engagement. You go to a community, you want to start a new community activity and you experience apathy. It is a lot of information that you have right there. It tells you the meaning people attach to that whole community engagement and that whole exercise you even want to bring, right? But if you start that kind of project and the whole community rallies behind it, then you certainly know that this is a very important thing for them, and they have certain specific meaning they attach to it. So as a designer, it's an opportunity for you to start asking them, why do you do this? And what does it mean for you? What would change if I did not do it? You know, if I did not bring this project, right? Yeah. So let's move on to the next one. Cultural and social context also indicate a lot the meaning people attach to whether it is a problem or it's a solution. The use of culturally significant symbols. Why do our chiefs wear certain regalia when they sit in state? Why do certain aristocrats or big people or very prominent people, when it's time for an occasion, they are so particular about what they wear to the public? It all comes down to the meaning they attach to that particular event and all of that. And this is an opportunity for innovators to always take note. Okay, social interaction, the way people discuss and share their experiences with others, including social validation and group dynamics, can also tell us a lot about meaning. If you have visited a prison before and you try to have maybe a program, a Bible study or something, and you see the way these prisoners or these inmates gather around and try and participate, then you begin to see what that whole simple exercise means to them or the meaning they attach to it. Yes, an exercise that on a different day in a different environment, they will not even bother to participate. But in there, it means something very different. They see it as something very, very important that they believe they must participate. Okay, something that's of great value. So that is also a good point of indicator if you are an innovator or a designer to take note of when you are trying to uncover meaning. Yes, please let's go on. Then probably the last but one is physical environment. If you walk into a living room that had this kind of setup, what would be your first impression about the people who live in that place? Okay, this is something I want us all to think. If you were to walk in the family picture sit right in the middle and it has all these artifacts around it, what would be your first impression about the family? What would you say about them? What would you say they hold in high esteem or very important? Okay, and this is all part of the meaning, the way people show meaning to problems or solutions. Yes, Matthew, the last slide. They have a grandfather clock. Thank you. So if you walk into any place and you see a grandfather clock and a rocking chair, and the family picture is in the middle, it should tell you something. There's a family that holds family values in high esteem. All right. Now there's a bonus slide we decided to add on because what we've noticed that in the Gen Z generation, the way they show or reflect meanings to issues, to problems or solutions is through social media. You know, social thing is vented on social media. Just let just let something happen. The Gen Z generation and probably the next ones coming after them, it's not in too many complex things. It is the power of the phone and the power of the internet. They will tell you, just go there and read through their message and you know what meanings they attach to anything going on in the country at any point in time. Right? So social media forums and customer feedback have also become a very big point of uncovering the meaning or how users reflect or show meanings that they attach to a program or solution. Yes, let's move on. Okay, so now how for us designers, so now that we have a fair idea of how people show meanings or how people reflect the meanings they attach to problems or solutions, what does that mean for us designing? How do we uncover these user meanings? And it's a very simple process that we are very, very familiar with in the design thinking process. The first one, and it all comes down to that keyword empathize. First thing, well, first step to uncovering meaning is being able to observe, all right? There's so much you can learn by just sitting at an OPD, observing the nurses and the patients and what meanings they attach to their work, they attach to this whole thing about medical care, healthcare, and all of that, just by observing them, even before you talk to them, okay? Then the next important way as designers we can uncover meaning is through our own trusted in-depth interview, going there into the environment of the users and having deeper conversations with them, guided conversations with them so that you can understand from their point of view. Call it explorative interviews or whatever it is. It comes down to having conversations and not just giving them a piece of paper for them to take. Okay. Then also having that mindset of asking to understand, not asking to hear or asking to listen. And that is also a skill that as designers we must have. Okay. Then the next thing is being able to analyze the data you've collected and being able to tell the story back to your users so you can get feedback. You go to do interview, you go to observe, you document your findings. You should be able to tell a story, a compelling story of what you observed back to your users for them to give you feedback and say, yes, you have really understood that, or back to your fellow innovators for them to get a good sense of what they have to do. Okay. And these are the ways that as designers, we can uncover user meaning. Last but not the least is the point of view statement. After all is said and done, we should be able to come to that point where we can sufficiently describe the affected user. We can properly capture the need that the user wants to address, and we are able to provide empathetic insight concerning that need. That empathetic insight is all rooted or connected to the meaning the user attaches to the whole problem. All right. So as designers, much as we are very familiar with the whole design thinking process, two very important things for us to note. Any point in time, we should have at the back of our mind that our users keep on having meanings to every part of the experience they are going through or every part of the solution they are being trained to use. Okay. Number two, it is our job to use the tools we have to uncover those meanings and get those insights. And some of these tools, we are familiar with them: user journeys, persona map, empathy map, absence 5 Ys, the 5W plus H, problem statement, and then the point of view statement, right? So today's session has been mainly helping us to really focus on this whole concept of meaning as designers and how we can uncover them and how we can spot it when our users are. All right, so please let's go on. Yeah, I brought this thing here. It's a very simple but powerful tool that you can use as a designer to really extract meaning from your observations or your user interview. Let's say you've gone out to the field to conduct an interview among various users. When you captured all of these data, when you come back, you can actually pull out a sheet of paper, list the users, and then write down the quote or the key statements they made, and then together with your team, ask yourself, our user, the nurse said, I'm always tired and never have enough time to take care of my family. What does it mean? Just asking the question, what does it mean, opens the door for you and your team to actually dissect that simple statement of, I'm always busy and never have time to take care of my family. You could dissect it in so many different ways. Another example, if somebody says, this gentleman here works 24/7, what does it mean? It could mean he doesn't organize his time well, he never has time for himself, he has no friends, or he has no social life. It could even mean he's an introvert. It could mean so many things. All right. Now, the next question you will ask is, so what is the end to finding the meaning? At any point in time, there could be a potential list of meanings you could draw from it. But when you begin to rank these meanings that you've been able to draw out, you begin to see that some of the meanings actually form into one, and some of them do not directly relate to it, but then they provide insights into what you are dealing with. So the next step you take from those meanings is, what conclusion are you able to draw from the meaning? And those are the insights that you carry with you into your innovation process. All right, so as you can see from the screen here, being able to list the users, their posts, drawing out the meaning, and being able to draw conclusions is a powerful way for you as a designer to be able to do what? Have concrete conclusions to take into your solution. Now, I keep using the word designer, but it applies to almost anybody who is in the business of solving problems or is in the business of providing solutions, okay? Whether you are an entrepreneur, a business owner, a manager in the office, you could actually have a structured approach of gathering observations and quotes from your team and have time to generate meaning from it and draw conclusions to help you do a better job what to do. I'll pause here once again. If anybody has a question or a contribution, we are happy to discuss and share before I move on to the last part of what I want to share. Any conclusion? Any suggestions or contributions to what we've shared so far?
I just wanted to add to what you said earlier about how people express meanings and the social interaction aspect, the group validation aspect, and culture aspect, that those parts are actually very powerful when it comes to designing solutions and coming up with innovations. And I always give this example about the hearing aid, which was very functional, was working well. and it was accepted in one European country. It was taken out in the ear, and the same solution was taken to another country, and it was rejected simply because it was very visible and it was not culturally or socially acceptable for a hearing aid to stick outside your ear for everyone to know that you have a challenge with hearing. And whilst we were preparing for this session, Eugene also gave an example of how a young guy had to wear a hearing aid and he was always being teased at school. And because of that, he decided to stop wearing the hearing aid and saying he can hear okay. But it was just because he didn't get validated within the circles within which he found himself. So as designers, one of the things I've learned that is very important is the issue of culture, social interaction, group dynamism, and all that. So I just wanted to emphasize that point. Thank you.
So this is to emphasize the earlier point I made about the how we can uncover the meanings. And I walked us through the process, and I said when all is said and done, we should be able to correctly get a point of view statement, because that provides a powerful what do you call it? Information for us to take into the ideation process. So no, yeah. Then I will spend a few minutes to talk about is how do we integrate the meaning into the design process? Okay. We are all very familiar with the process of ideation, prototyping, and testing. What we want to advocate as designers, as solution providers, as problem solvers, as business people, as managers, as entrepreneurs, whatever category you may find yourself, is when you've been able to pick out what your users are communicating to you, your stakeholders are communicating, be able to pick out the meaning they attach to the problem. You've been able to uncover these meanings through your observations and asking the right questions. Why do you do this? Asking it 5 times and so on and so forth. And you've been able to define it or sum it all up in the point of view statement. Then you have an opportunity to bring to life what ideas you have. We are familiar with the ideation, prototyping, and testing. What we want to advocate is, as we generate ideas, we should just pay attention to making sure that our ideas resonate with the emotional and social meaning, as well as the functional jobs to be done. Okay, guided by the empathetic insight we've summed up in the point of view, it should help us to pay attention to the emotional and social meaning of the solution that we introduce. If you take the earlier example I shared with you, the Uniloo. The Uniloo is a portable toilet system that families can buy. They have it at home, and then the service providers come for it from time to time, and they use the waste for other bioagricultural processes and stuff. But what was the key thing about the Uniloo? It was this whole element of honor, dignity, and the privacy of doing one's own thing. Before the Uniloo came in, most communities will line up at a public KVIP. KVIP is Kumasi Ventilated Improved Pit. All right. And that element of dignity, that moment where people want to have it just for themselves without anybody knowing what they are doing, is now a public spectacle, or is an open knowledge in the public. And in that moment, honor and dignity is lost. But the designers of the Uniloo really kind of got the meaning, got the empathetic insight behind this whole exercise, and we're able to design a solution that says you can take it and keep it at home and use it. Nobody will know. We will come for it. You get it? It's not even your standard WC or anything, but it is that solution that you can decide that you want to even have one or two or three. For poor rural homes, this was an opportunity for them to also have their dignity. And that is when your solution is not just addressing the jobs to be done, it's also taking care of the pains the user and has, and giving them gains. Okay, it is addressing the social and the emotional meaning they attach to it. Okay, so when we come to the ideation stage, as many ideas that we bring is fantastic, but our teams should be reminded that, hey, not just ideas that get the job done, but ideas that also take care of these empathetic insights or these meanings that we discovered when we were interacting with our users. Then our prototype should be able to pass the emotional test. All right. We develop great prototype, we go out to test, it can do the job. But will it pass the emotional test? Will it be a prototype that make the users feel you have really understood what I'm looking for, or you really understand that this is very, very important for me? Our prototype should be able to pass the emotional test. So it is addressing the jobs to be done, it's addressing the pains and also offering gains for our users. Then at the testing stage, we should be able to validate our solutions with users to ensure they evoke positive emotions and align with their values. All right. Not just solutions that get the job done. So, for example, if you are offering a taxi hailing service, the job to be done is I need a vehicle to move me from A to B. But then I also want a bit of respect in what kind of vehicle I use and a bit of respect while I'm in the vehicle and so on and so forth. You get it? So that solution that we are going to test, we should also go the extra mile of validating the emotional component of it when we are testing those solutions and not just does it get the job done for you or not. All right. This is very, very, very important. All right. Yes. So, Matthew, please move on to the next one. Okay. So, a few things that want to just leave with you. Meanings have a lot of power, and if we pay attention to these meanings that our users have or attach, we will be able to integrate them to create truly compelling and differentiated products. And for us as designers or people who are in the problem solving phase, embracing customer demand complexity by exploring and addressing meanings in design is the way to go. All right. We don't just solve problems, but we truly solve problems that um, carry a lot of weight and meaning for our users. So we will pause here, and it's an open discussion. We want new, fresh suggestions and ideas on how, as designers, we can always pay attention to the meanings that our users attach to the problems or solutions. So I'll pause here and we have some 10 minutes more to go, so we can have an open forum and discussion. Yeah.
Papa, you were referring to me?
Yeah, I was asking if you want to give last comment on.
No, it's fine. Thank
Okay,
you.
all right, good. Yeah, Martin, please move on to the very last slide, and then you can leave it there. And yeah, so key takeaway: great design isn't just about solving problems; it's about uncovering and embracing the meanings behind those problems to create truly impactful experience. So just like I said a few minutes ago, it's an open forum. Are there any of us here who have been in a situation of solving a problem or doing a review of a solution and we've encountered something more than just the job to be done that we want to share? Any suggestion? That would be great.
Yeah, I think maybe I'll just start us off. Thank you very much, Papa and Dr. Abby. The session was very insightful, and nicely engaging as well. I think for me, because I am an entrepreneur and building something, something to add, I guess, with our experiences, even beyond sometimes doing the research and feeling you've understood the base needs of your users well enough to start. Um, Iteration and always going back to ask those users again to see if when you met them 3 months ago, they're still at the same space, can be very useful, especially for a very, very young product, because at that point you're engaging your early evangelist or early adopter. So those users are also a lot more willing to give you that data that can make your product very good for the larger majority of clients you might have. And today I was doing a little consultation with my team, and some of the questions we had, and this is just generally crazy questions we have that we want to ask some of our users next week about our product, were things like regarding the problem you're trying to solve, what solution do you think could make solving that problem 10 times better, right? Like what aspect of that problem 10 times better? Or even regarding the solution we are giving you, if we were to fully stop our business today, what would you miss the most about it? And although these aren't the kind of direct questions people get asked, it usually inspires more interesting answers to get those codes. So I just wanted to share a bit of that experience. But yeah, very, very insightful session.
All right, thank you, Brian. Anybody has some experience to share with us?
So also wanted to add, this process of figuring out what more consumers need aside functionality, because they are not rational, they are emotionally driven, etc., etc. I think it takes a lot of patience and trying, right? Because this is not something that is essentially quantitative, it's very qualitative. So you have to do a bit of trying and trying again, as Brian mentioned. And it takes a lot of patience. And as we say, you have to be willing to fail, but then you want to fail fast and learn quickly so you can build on your knowledge of what you thought was something that would excite your consumers. And again, in business or in personal life, etc., we talk about business even more. We do a lot of this. Sometimes we are very certain, we know what the consumer wants, the product, we have to as we want it, and you have to come back and iterate, iterate, iterate. So I think I just wanted to add that, wherever you see people trying to figure out people, yeah, it takes a bit of patience and a bit of trying again and again.
Okay, thank you. Yes, we still have about some 5 minutes. Any last contribution?
Apari, your voice is very low. Kofi, I like the word that you used, figuring out people. I think it's about how you're going to figure out the people, because sometimes you even ask the questions, you don't get the answers. So you have to rely on observation, trying to see how they are behaving and all that. So I like that, figuring out people.
So I think just to add, also piggybacking on what Kofi said, but also talking around community building. I was watching this Forbes documentary, video documentary on Stanley Cups, which are these extremely popular cups, especially in the West. And they've had incredible marketing. And I think in just about a span of under 2 years, they grew their revenue by like over 300%, from like 78 million to over 500 like million of sorts. And one of the big things that helped them there was their consumers like made their brand what it is. Like they run with the brand, they put it out there, they felt so connected to it, they were talking about it. They would buy out entire aisles and post pictures of literally only one Stanley Cup idly standing amongst like all the other competitors and stuff. And so I feel with this whole idea of psychology we're talking about with consumers, maybe our businesses and what we do, we just have to be more enablers. I think if we learn to give what we've built to the world and to the users and have them define it, our brand and what we are doing can mean a lot more than if we directly always try to mold it into what we want it to be. And I feel like that's something scary, but maybe that's an approach more businesses need to think of. Because if you almost think of anything that's very successful, is because you've attached your own meaning to what that product is. So that was an interesting documentary I watched, and I just wanted to reference in case anyone wants to check it out. It's under 8 minutes.
Okay, sure. Please type it in the chat. It would be nice for
Yeah, I'll drop the
yeah.
link.
Okay, Desmond has his hand up. Yes,
Okay.
Desmond.
Hi, good evening, everybody. I hope I'm audible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I joined the session a bit late, so I don't know if this was touched on, but I think from personal experience and then from my own interactions with people, business people, NGOs, so on, one of the points that came up on my end was how people tended to, should I say, intuitively connect certain solutions or certain new solutions to old ones as a way of making sense to them, which kind of doubles back to user perception of certain solutions. So, for example, there was a scenario where, let's say, children didn't want to wear casts, right? So, like, they had a broken arm or they had a broken limb and then they had to wear a cast, but then they didn't want to because there was that stigmatization there, or they didn't want people to know. I believe it was mentioned in the case of the hearing aid, for example, but this also goes towards the user perception of some of these things because sometimes the solutions work. Sometimes maybe even on a social point of view, it's understood as to the need of it, but maybe there are some of these implied assumptions, so to speak, that are associated with these things. And then that can ultimately also be channeled into behavioral change practices because I think on the behavioral change spectrum, you have the more subtle, gradual introduction of certain concepts, products, or ideas to people, as opposed to the more forced and direct aspect of things. And I think sometimes, if some of the things we want to do, we want them to also kind of, especially if they are new things, right? We want to kind of try and build a form of reputation around it, which I think sometimes that's where marketing really works, like Brian mentioned, or some of these concepts work because sometimes functionality is not always what ensures success in some cases. So it's very intriguing to see how the psychology of some of these things play out, where the social stance of something actually, should I say, brings up a derivative use on it of it based on how people tend to perceive it. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah, that was my 2 cents on the topic.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Desmond.
So I
Yeah.
just wanted to, of Desmond's point, I was just thinking about something, if I may, and it was like regarding African politics and how, we always complain, right? I'm sure a lot of people have been happy with how a lot of our African countries are being run and stuff. And I think one of the big reasons for it is because the psychology, like you hear some of the reasons people vote sometimes, and maybe someone just got some jollof rice or some ice cream, or someone's generations of generations have supported that party. So it doesn't matter what that party does, I would vote. Big psychology. So my question, and this is like to the audience, is can we also reverse engineer sometimes this psychology thing for function? Because I feel like for some things, it doesn't matter that your great 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 grandfather voted for that party once. It's about maybe what they would do. Like, do you think there are any ways, and this is just open, that like how do we how do we make it work in some of these cases where we need functionality to lead so that people can make better choices?
Okay.
I see.
All
I
right.
think Derry put something in the comments.
Okay. I remember when VIP bus transport started. At the time, users attached prestige and safety to their services, while Ford and Sprinter buses were deemed as fast and unsafe. Even though VIP entered the market with a more expensive fare, they have been very successful in my view from day one. If you look at it, it's because they clearly understood that passengers just didn't want a means of transport. At the time, um, transportation also meant safety and comfort, and something for Kumasi Trima for to add to their bragging list. There is another topic for another month. Thank you very much. Okay. All right, Matthew. So I think we hand it over to you here. Thank you all very much for your contribution and your participation. Matthew.
Thank you very much, Papa you and then Dr. B. That was insightful discussion and presentation. I mean, drawing back on meaning makings, I was thinking about it's throwing more light or re-emphasizing the concept of empathy, understanding your the users you are designing a solution for. Once again, I want to say thank you to everyone for joining us today. Before I close it all up, I don't know if Dr. Gordon is still on the call and has a few words before we call it an evening. Dr. Gordon, Dr. G. All right. Yeah, once again, thank you all. And as we do this monthly, next month we'll be going into the area of agriculture, something about designing for sustainable food systems. So be on the lookout for the details on this meetup, and we'll keep you posted. Enjoy the rest of your evening and all the best. Bye bye.